The following program contains scenes of
Just don't, dear.
viewer discretion is advised.
Looking for some insight here because I'm not sure why this exchange made me so angry. I had this event planned for more than 40 people. It wasn't a huge deal, mostly Backale's fourth emails, but it had been rescheduled several times due to poor weather. The event was planned for yesterday afternoon, an outdoor event at the location, followed by a meal at location B. Yesterday morning, I went up to my office to finish a few things, and it was scheduled to begin at 3. At about 11, I receive a text from my wife. Would you mind driving by someplace else on your way home? If it's free, I would make a lot more sense to go there instead of the first place and then walk to the second place. My reply is we can't having it there because it's logistically impossible. Her reply, well, weren't we going to have it there the last time it was scheduled? And I said no. Then she said, what about the time before that? Anyways, when are you heading that way? So this series of text absolutely enraged me. Even though I know it shouldn't, even though I knew it should be how I'd be reacting with like Muse Mastery or whatever, I ignored the texts, tried to calm down over the next 90 minutes, but I was still steaming when I got home and the wife could tell. She asked me what was wrong. I said, don't want to talk about it. And after a minute, she said something like, oh, I get it. I screwed up by questioning your absolute authority. So sorry, quite sarcastically. I flashed a bit and told her an insecure apology was no apology at all. And yes, I was irritated by the way she kept pushing the issue, especially since we were like 3 hours beforehand. And it was not possible to change the location. But before I escalated it too much, I just left the house and we both calmed down after that. But I still don't get why it made me so angry. And I'm hoping you guys can help me out getting some insights on this. A couple of terms before we get started. Texting is for logistics only. In this case, he was thinking too much and he was talking too much. What he should have done, as soon as she started bringing up these questions, the thing was already planned, just don't answer. Not answering texts keep these things from escalating because there's a lot of miscommunication in that. And while this is just some simple example of changing plans that he'd already worked on for God knows how long, had he done that with anything, if they have a fight and he leaves the house and she's incessantly texting him, calling him names, or constantly blathering about some validation she needs that day, and you just don't answer him, you'll realize that most issues are not important. And if they are, they're face-to-face important. So using a text is this weird half-assed way of doing it. It's like having a small patch of lawn and thinking that you got yourself a house. It's like, no, if it just fits inside of a planter, it's not really a lawn. You're just half-assing things. DEAR, also known as JADE, stands for Defend, Explain, Excuse, and Rationalize. She asked a question here, and if you really have to answer the tests, or the texts, can we not just go to this place instead? No. Everything he put after that was a giant deer, and it was a giant deer and a covert contract. He explained that as long as he gave her more information, she would come to the same conclusions he came up with. When she didn't, he got mad. And this is why covert contracts are very bad and why deering is bad. He assumed that as long as I give her the information, she will act the way I want her to act. And that's a standard covert contract. Again, if you avoid deering and keep that in the back of your mind, are you defending something you did? Are you explaining it? Are you excusing it? Are you rationalizing it? If that's the case, there's usually a covert contract you have to look for in that situation, and then you just quash it right away. In this case, no. Can't move, can't be done. See you in an hour. The captain and the first officer model, I believe this one was popularized by Athol K. It's where they talk about a nice relationship dynamic, a narrative structure to wrap around it, or what they call in the business a deep narrative. The idea here is you're ultimately responsible for the success or failure of all the things within your relationship. And she has the role of a trusted advisor. That means her word is given great weight, but ultimately you have the veto authority here. A lot of guys take that to mean, is that like submissiveness and dominance? Sort of. It just means if girls have a hard time accepting responsibilities and one of their greatest fears is being thought of as the person who screwed it up or is a bad person. And so by you taking that load off of them, you're taking the role of responsibility. And by doing that, the girl tends to be much more pleasant, for lack of a better term. So advice for this guy, he was wondering why he's so mad about it, and it's pretty obvious. It's the covert contract on his part. He thought that as long as he gave her information, she would act the way he wanted her to act. And when she didn't, she got kind of bobbleheaded. He basically got angry about it. So if he doesn't want to get angry about this stuff, stop explaining yourself. Stop expecting people to act the way they act when you tell them what you want to tell them. It's a manipulative frame set that can really ruin a lot of things. And I don't mean to use this like in a flippant way either, but this is like pervasive. Most guys, they're going to find they think they crush all the covert contracts in their life when they first run their map for maybe a year. And then all of a sudden, bam, some of these small ones like this just crop back up. It's hard. If you've spent like 20, 30, sometimes 40 years of your life with these covert contracts and these cycles of resentment and frustration, you can't just get rid of them in 2 months. Sometimes it takes work. And the best thing you can do is always keep an eye out for it, especially if you have a high conflict type of relationship. And then you'll see where they are. And then you start quashing them. In this case, either if she had to know this for some reason or another, make sure she knew the information beforehand, at which case you have no reason to explain yourself. And if she didn't know it, don't worry, babe. I got this. I'll see you at 11. Don't worry about it. Either way. This matters for you because everybody has covert contracts whether they know them or not. It can run the gamut from maybe it was just, I went to the same church as she went to, so she should be a good loving wife because the Lord said so. It could be something like, hey, if I promise to pick up the kids today, she's definitely going to do it tomorrow. It's the promise of, if I have a good job and I'm a good father, then she's going to love me forever. All these things happen because of conflict. And the more conflict you have, the more your covert contracts are being called out. And girls are notorious for this. So this matters to you in that you understand that a lot of conflict in your life isn't because your girl's being a bitch. It's because you have a covert contract. Girls naturally respond to these things by blowing up the covert contract because they do not want the responsibility of it. Because as soon as you put this onus on them to solve these problems, there's a chance that they could fail. And by failing, they look like a bad person, and nothing scares a girl more than that. The alternative for this, and it feels like I'm repeating myself, man, just don't, dear. If she needed to know beforehand to make some decisions, let her know beforehand. If she starts questioning it at the 11th hour, just ignore it. Texting's for logistics only. This could have gone a whole different way. Beginning at 3, at about 11 he gets a text. Would you mind driving by there on your way home? If it's free, I'd like to make a lot more sense to go there and then walk to the different location. To his answer, no. Or just don't answer your text. You're driving home. And then when you get home, did you get my text? Did you drive by the thing? No. Why not? No. Don't worry, babe. It's fine. Relax. Then he'll find out it's most likely either she wasn't aware of his plans and that she needs to trust him, and most likely she probably would, or she started having second thoughts and her emotions got her all running away, or maybe her mom mentioned something about how her foot hurts and she wants to be the good host. Either way, tons of things could happen and it doesn't really matter. The alternative for this is just not responding to texts, not getting riled up every time a girl has a demand, and just because a girl is talking doesn't mean you have to listen. Just because she has a demand doesn't mean you have to actually oblige it. Sometimes as a guy, you can just ignore the shit out of the girl. Even if it's somebody you love, even if it's somebody that's the mother of your 17 kids on your luxury cabin somewhere in the woods. So you're just not allowed to not care. Again, another one, a nice quickie, relationship breakdown. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. Always don't forget, check out the Patreon, links in the description there. We deal with relationship problems in real time, stuff like this, a lot more personal. It's discreet though. Come on in, check it out. We don't charge till the end of the month, so if you like it, stick around. I know you will. As always, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers. Charles Bukowski, Jordan Peterson, Neil Strauss. I like these guys. Add some salt to cover up the bitterness of middle-aged soccer moms and put in the oven for 45 minutes.